Okay, guys. So, just kind of the relay off the last video. I also wanted to talk about how to generate how I would do a glass material. There's like 80 different ways to do it and a bunch of different nodes and stuff like that. But this I found this to be one of the easiest ways to get a glass-like material. So you have your scene set up, right? You have your lights, you have your floor, you got your object right here. So that's all set up and ready to go. But, you want this to have like a glass material to it. So what you need to do is head to the material tab down here. This is your material properties, by the way. Little marble button right here. I'm going to hit new and give it a material. I'm going to call it glass underscore dot mug. You can call it whatever you want. Blender has a naming convention where you type a word and you put dot because a lot of these programs don't really like having a space, so you use dot or underscore. Maya uses underscore. That's what I was taught. But Blender's default is dots or periods. So glass dot mug. All right. So we're gonna use the principal BSDF. I think that's gonna be fine for what we're using. The main thing you need to do is a couple of settings, right? So the first thing to look at is roughness. So over here under materials, roughness is how rough an object is. The lower your roughness, the smoother it is. So we're going to bring the roughness all the way down to 0. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to up the transmission. So the transmission, essentially, what it means is how much you can see through your material. So we're going to up the transmission level to 1. That's max. So transmission max, roughness 0, right? And then you're going to get something like this, but it doesn't quite look like glass. Here's what we got to do. You need to switch over to your render options here. And instead of Eevee, we're going to use Cycles. Cycles render is using ray tracing, so it's going to generate more realistic lighting. So when I go to rendered view, we're going to get this. It's getting there, but I got to switch it to GPU compute over here so it's faster. There we go. So you can see already we can there's an image generated through it, and yeah, it gets dark when it's layering the glass. It's holding the reflections because the roughness is low. Let's see what happens when we adjust some of the settings here. So I'm gonna go back to the materials. I'm going to increase the roughness a little bit, like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. You can see it's almost like frosted glass. So it's no longer smooth. It's rough now. I'm gonna bring my roughness all the way down back to 0 and give it really a look here. The other thing we can mess with is the IOR. That's called the index of refraction. So refraction is when you look through an object, like for example, glass or water or anything, and whatever's on the other side is distorted. So light is being refracted. So we're adjusting how much that's being affected. So if I go over here on the slider for IOR, I can bring this down. If it's 0, nothing. There's no refraction, right? If I bring it up to like 3, is an insane amount of refraction. It's being super distorted. So you don't want to go too hard on this. So let's say we do 1. We do 1, we get this, right? Not too good looking. But if we go a little bit higher to the default 1.4, we get this. You can do 1.9 and it's getting more distorted. This will vary depending on how much distortion you want. So if we do like 1.3, we get this. Almost no distortion. The image on the other side is very, very flat, except for the edge where it's fringing a little bit, and that's due to the shape of the glass. Um, so I like to do like 1.4, 1.5. The default's pretty good, but you can mess with it based on whatever your object is. So that's how I would do glass. You can also there's a bunch of different materials and options. Some people like to use instead of random walk under the your settings here for the materials, they use Christensen Burley because it just gives a slight different look in how it's processed. Um, I don't know the exact like technical difference between them. I gotta look into that, but essentially, it does give a slightly nicer look to the glass. So, yeah, if you have any questions, but this is how I would do a glass material.